Present, and thank you very much for
you're welcome.
coming all the way from Barstow.
Well, thanks for inviting me over to talk to this class. I really
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a lot to share with everybody out there. I can't see you, but I want to tell you I'm really glad that you have an interest in natural resources and what's going on in the environment around you. The first slide that I have up here, you can see that sandy little area in the background. That is actually Dumont Dunes. So if you're headed towards Baker and you turn left off of I-15 at Baker and go another 40 miles, Dumont Dunes is out there. It's one of the recreation fee areas that I'm responsible for. And over the holidays, like the New Year's holidays is coming up, and Thanksgiving and Halloween. Halloween's one of our biggest events out there where off-roaders come out. We'll go from 0 to 14,000 people in about 2 days out there.
Wow.
So as part of my responsibility, I'm the incident commander out there, so I have responsibility for the maintenance crew. I have responsibility for the EMTs, our emergency medical team. I have
Click that button there.
Okay.
I pushed you to the next slide already.
Alrighty. I'm responsible for all sorts of stuff out there at Dumont Dunes. So that's just one of my responsibilities as a recreation branch chief at the Bureau of Land Management. I've been with the Bureau of Land Management now, it'll be 9 years in January, so I'm really young and fresh to the agency. There are other people in my office that have been there over 20 years, so I am really new to this game. So Lynn asked me to tell you a number of different things about myself. My first degree was an associate's degree, and it was in liberal arts. And I got that from the College of St. Joseph in Rutland, Vermont. I'm a Vermonter originally, so I really miss trees. But I plant trees everywhere I go. So I've even planted trees here in the Barstow area. So I really enjoy outdoors and working on that. I grew up on a dairy farm in Vermont, so I have real strong ties to the earth and the ground and what's happening out there. So after my liberal studies, which I got when I was in my 30s, because I was working full-time and taking classes part-time, like a lot of you might. I know I have some high school students here too, but you can always work and go to school like this, fill in some classes. So my associate's degree was probably one of my proudest degrees that I got, really, because I worked forever to get that thing. So then I also went on to get a master's degree from Central Michigan University in leisure service. I moved a little bit to the middle of the country, so Michigan's really a great place. It has a lot of forests in it and stuff like that, national forests, national parks. No BLM stuff. BLM land basically is west of the Mississippi. All our lands are mainly west of the Mississippi because it was a young agency, actually, compared to some of the other agencies like the National Park Service and U.S. Forest Service. Although we have a little bit similar missions, they're not quite the same. Each one's a little bit different. And then just because I like torture, I went on to get a doctorate degree in park recreation and tourism with a minor in sustainable natural resource development. So I continued on with that, and I actually finished that degree when I was 52. So you can go and get classes and graduate at almost any age, but the younger the better, I would say, for you. So some of the past jobs that I was, right out of high school, I went in the U.S. Air Force, and in 1971, I started out as a recreation specialist. So as you can see, I haven't gone very far from what my original roots were. So I did that in the Air Force, and I was in Alaska, I was in Maine, I was in Texas, I was in Colorado, I was in Ohio. I was all over the place as part of my Air Force career. And then there's a mining company down the road here, AMIA, which mines calcium carbonate. So I also worked in the mining industry doing that back in Vermont. Worked for General Electric in the Rutland office making blades and vanes. So when you're at the airport and you're looking to see the engine, all those things on the inside, I worked in a foundry where we actually made those blades. We took round chunks of steel and turned them into the blades that you see in there. So all these things really have a tie to the BLM because one of the BLM does is sells mineral rights. So like Amia Mine out there, that's on public lands. So we also have responsibility for making sure all these mines meet our NEPA, which is National Environmental Policy Act requirements when we okay them. So there's a lot of stuff there. And then I've taught at Michigan State University, Central Michigan University, Linden State College, Community College of Vermont, Springfield College as an adjunct professor. So I was teaching like 18 semester hours a semester, which just got to be a killer, really. That's a lot of classes to teach. I was using Blackboard, which I think you guys might be familiar with the Blackboard program.
What you're on right now?
Yeah, Blackboard. So that was what I was using then. For Volca, I did an overseas assignment as a consultant, and I've done one in Slovakia, Ecuador, and Bolivia. And I've gone and helped people develop their tourism and natural sustainable places for people to come and visit. So really exciting assignments. Current job has two titles, really. I'm the supervisory outdoor recreation planner. So that means everything recreation around here on BLM land goes through my office and I know about. So any activity, any race, any development, any special event, that's all part of the processing thing that we do at the Bureau here in Barstow. Film permits, the whole 9 yards. We permit everything. Yeah. So the Bureau of Land Management is one of several agencies within the Department of Interior. And the Secretary of the Department of Interior, Sally Jewell, who was the president of REI, which is Recreation Equipment Incorporated. You might have gotten some equipment from REI or have an REI card. So she's been doing that for the last 8 years. And within the agency, it's a Bureau of Land Management, the National Park Service, a Bureau of Indian Affairs, a Bureau of Reclamation. So there's like 12 other agencies besides ours and under the Department of Interior. Now, within that, our agency is new. In 1976, they did the Federal Land Policy and Management Act, FLPMA. So when you hear people talk about FLPMA, that is what the BLM calls its organic act. That is what really tells us what we need to do. And we're a multiple use sustainable yield organization. So that provides a lot of challenges for us as a multiple use sustainable yield organization. That means that we have to allow mining, we have to allow recreation, we have to allow hiking, we have to allow equestrian trails, we have to allow a lot of stuff, and we have to figure out how to make everything work together and have people share, which is really one of our largest challenges. So these are all the different things that we have go on our land. Really, it's amazing. It's incredible. So my part of the field office, it's actually broken two, is the recreation side, and then we have the resource side. So they're the ones that do the grazing permits. They're the ones that do the Realty Act. So if somebody wants a right-of-way into their piece of property, it would come through our realty agency. If somebody wants to put in a high-voltage power line, that's a realty that would take care of that. So we have archaeologists, biologists, all sorts of different people, budget people, and I'll talk some more about that later on in my slides. Any questions to this point? Can people ask questions? Any questions to this point? Go ahead.
Is there a challenge to allow all these different activities and at the same time maintain the environment, conserve the environment without destructing the environment, going from 0 to 14,000 people? There must be.
Well, Dumont Dunes, and you'll see some more slides of Dumont Dunes, is an area that can actually handle that, except this last, well, yes, it is a challenge. So
And what are the
let me just
types of challenges?
So what we have is open areas, and we have limited use areas, and then we have closed areas. So basically, those are our three choices of BLM land. So that is an open area, Dumont Dunes. Johnson Valley and Stoddard Valley are two other open OHV areas. Razor is another open OHV area. So what I mean by open is you can go in and basically do anything. It's been determined, and we've just gone through the DRECP, which is the Desert Renewable Energy
Conservation
plan. There you go. Thank you very much for that. So we've just gone through that, and you can find that online at drecp.org, which basically tells you how we're going to manage all the different areas within here. So it gives you some idea, but within each one of those areas, then there are certain things that we can do too. So it always is a challenge. For example, we only have so many people. I only really have 6 people that work for me to do the 3.1 million acres that I'm responsible for in this field office. So it's a real challenge, and on weekends we have races and activities taking place, but we only have so many people. So Dumont Dunes, all of my staff plus resource staff goes out to work the dunes on a holiday. If any of you, and I'm asking this to the whole group in the classrooms too, have you been out there to Dumont Dunes on a holiday weekend?
Crazy.
You have been?
Yeah.
I haven't been there, but I went to Johnson Valley with the big hammer race this year.
Right, the king
It was
of the...
terrifying. I had to get out of there. People buzzing everywhere. It was like a whole new world out there.
It is like a whole new world. And here you're talking about the King of the Hammers,
Yeah.
which we're working on permitting that right now.
Okay.
So we have over 80 vendors that we permit for that activity, plus all the events, plus they close it in, plus our law enforcement, our park rangers, our fire crew. So it's huge out there. So that's coming up in February if you want to see that.
That'd be cool.
Dumont Dunes is a little bit smaller. Halloween's one of the favorite. New Year's, I'm not sure how many we'll get. I think we get about 7,000 to 8,000 people out there. But it's more of a family-friendly place. We'd like to have young kids out there and family members. It does get crazy, just like King of the Hammers. I mean, people are out there on their sand rails, on their UTVs, in their vehicles, just driving around all over the place. But that sand hasn't moved very much over 100 years. It really takes a long time for that big pile of sand to move. And it actually got there from the lakes that are surrounding it through windstorms, and it's just stuck. I don't know why, but it has. So I know there's some literature on that and why it's there and how come it continues to stay there. So the highest part of Dumont Dunes, and we'll get to that, let me keep going, is over 450 feet high. So you got a sand pile basically that's 450 feet high that you can play on. That's a big sand pile. It really is a big sand pile.
Big sandbox.
Big sandbox. So besides our big sandboxes, we have wildlife that we have to be responsible for. So that's why we have our wildlife biologists. So when you're thinking about careers and things you want to do in the future, the BLM has all sorts of jobs. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later and where to go to look at the kind of jobs that are available at the BLM and other federal agencies, land management agencies. But the tortoise, so I was out riding one day. I like to move around a bit, but I'll stay with the X as much as I can.
We'll follow you.
So the tortoise, have any of you ever seen tortoises when you're out driving around? Did you pick them up? No. No is the right answer. You should not pick this tortoise up if you see it next to the road. You should avoid it. When you pick the tortoises up, is a mechanism to fend off predators that relieve themselves of all the water that they have stored in them. So what happens is it's so dry out here that once they basically get rid of all their water, they might not make it through a summer because they'll just dehydrate and they'll die. So really don't pick up the tortoises. It's okay to take a picture of them, to walk around them, to look at them, to drive past them. But to think that you're going to save its life by picking it up and putting it on the edge of the road, you might have just killed that tortoise, okay? There are tortoise facilities around that take tortoises that we've found out there in the desert where people have done stuff like that or might have been hit by vehicles. But our field office, as far as I know since I've been here, and I've been here about 1.5 years, there's only been one tortoise that's been struck by a vehicle, and that was on I-15. So there's probably going to be some fencing that goes in along I-15 to protect the tortoise in the area that we know they're migrating, okay? So this happens to be one of the males that we have out at the Desert Discovery Center. And I'll talk about the Desert Discovery Center. Do you guys know how to identify whether they're male or female? Well, there's a number of things. One, you can tell by their toenails. Females actually have larger and longer toenails than the males because they have to do more burrowing to bury their eggs. Also, the shape of their belly. When it's concaved in like this, that's a guy, so that's a male. And this is a Mojave turtle. You can tell by these scoots that are on the top of it and how the shell is rounded. This is more of a, I believe it's called the Arizona tortoise, and I'm not getting the name quite right. But it's a different shape because you can see how flat the shell is, so there's two different kinds of tortoises there. So we do have some that are captive that we feed, that we keep at the Desert Discovery Center and also at El Mirage. Oops, wrong way. Wrong way.
Just pointed over here.
So this button here.
No, it's the arrows.
Okay. There we go. So here we are at the Desert Discovery Center. If you've never been, I hope that you get to it. It's in Barstow. It's right on Barstow Road. It's the exit for Barstow Road when you're coming through Barstow, and it's down the hill on the left. We have all sorts of exhibits inside of the facility. In this pond right here, we have the Western Mojave turtle. We have 5 of them in there. One of them was a female. We just had them tested, the DNA tested, to make sure they were Western Mojave. We're going to try to repopulate some areas by taking the female and actually capturing her for a while and making sure that we have some eggs that hatch. And what happens is, even at the Desert Discovery Center, the ravens get them. Ravens and birds are one of the biggest challenges for the desert tortoise. What they do is they pick them up, they drop them, and then they break through the bottom of the shell. So you see on the bottom of baby tortoises, and they're only about that big, where the shells have been cracked open. If the tortoise make it to 3 years, then they have a real good chance of not being eaten by a raven. So they have to hit that 3-year mark, which is a real challenge. So the same thing with the Western Pond. We also have some tui chub, which is another fish that's going to be extinct. So we have 2 of them in this pond that we're keeping alive. We also have art projects where you can see where kids come in and do art. So we try to serve the underserved population in Barstow area by offering free programs, art programs, music programs, dance programs. And we also, in the Desert Discovery Center, talk about everything that's out there in the desert. We talk about the Old Spanish Trail, we talk about the mining history, we talk about the railroads that have come through here, we talk about the Native Americans that were here before us. So the Desert Discovery Center really talks about everything. And you might have heard about the Mojave Trails National Monument. Yep, it just went in, so that's 1.6 million acres that is now proclaimed as a monument. So what does that mean? That means that a lot of things are going to be watched and maintained as part of being the monument. And I'm on the management plan writing portion of that. So in a year or so, you're going to see a scoping document come out that talks about the Mojave Trail National Monument. And when those scoping plans comes out, it gives everybody the opportunity to go and say what they'd like to see with the Mojave Trails. So it actually starts up in my field office, and then it goes into the Needles field office. So Route 66 also goes right through the middle of the Mojave Trails. See if I can do this right. There we go. Juniper Flats. Juniper Flats is right next door to you guys. I mean, it's like, I'm not sure where I am in the world, but I think it's right over there. I'll just point, it's right over there, okay. So Juniper Flats is where we've been spending a lot of time over the last year and a half. And what we're trying to do is an educational program. It's really a beautiful area. You really get some great elevation. You can see the whole valley from up there in Juniper Flats. And it's also a place where a lot of motorcycles, UTV riders are going. Part of the planning process, the WEMO, Western Mojave, there's another one, acronyms, I don't know. But anyways, what it means is it tells us what routes and places people should stay on. So we've been doing an educational program, and we've been getting volunteers to help us up there. We work with the Friends of Juniper Flats is one group. I don't know if you've heard of them, but that's one group that we work with quite a bit. I also have interns up there helping me. I also have hired park rangers, seasonal park rangers to help, maintenance workers. So what I want to show you is a restoration site that we had up there. So you can see where the motorcycles go up through. It's a single track. And over here, we've taken that and we've done some vertical mulching. There's different kinds of mulching or planting we can do to make trails disappear out there on the ground. And through vertical mulching, like you can see, here's this and this, this and this. And then we actually take brush that's around it, deadened down brush. We dig a hole in the ground about, I don't know, 2 feet deep. We stuff the brush in there. We pack it with rocks so it will hold. And that's a vertical mulching technique that we use that really works pretty well for us out there on the ground. There are some examples in places where people drive around it, but in this location, it's still holding today. So we also have fun things that we do. So El Mirage Dry Lake Bed. I hope you've heard of El Mirage Dry Lake Bed. A lot of activities take place out there. This lake bed is 6 miles long and 1.5 miles wide. It's about as flat as this classroom floor out there, all clay, and it's used for a lot of different activities. We have dozens of film crews a year come out there and do projects, either with cars or with subway commercials or you name it, they're doing it out there. And they love it because it's so flat. They have a real nice flat surface that they can work on. Also, there's not a lot of houses around it, so when they do their picture, and I see them on television all the time, commercials that were shot out at El Mirage, because I know the shape of the backgrounds and the mountains and stuff. So if you see a car on a dusty road or doing something like that, and it's a big flat area, it's probably El Mirage Dry Lake Bed where that filming was done. So what we have out there is a visitor center also, because it's a fee area. So we have a visitor center where we sell books and magazines and some soft drinks and a few things like that. Well, to get more people involved with safety and understanding safety concerns for OHV, we had a Mad Hatter Safety Day. So everybody dressed up in costume related to Alice in Wonderland. So it was a whole Alice in Wonderland Day related to safety out there. So we have people, like this is one of our park rangers, Park Ranger Art, and here's another one of our maintenance workers up here, and volunteers that were ready for the people that came there that day. I think we had about 200 people that showed up for our safety party out there, all dressed in different Halloween costumes. So this was right around Halloween. So this is El Mirage Dry Lake Bed. And what you see here are some of the vehicles that are out there for the SCTA, the Southern California Timing Association events, which is permitted for us. So at an event like this, I have to go out and monitor it, or I have to have one of my people monitor it, or get a resource person. We have to monitor it because of safety concerns. So as you can see out there on the dry lake bed, besides these dragsters going from 0 to 200 miles an hour in like a 1/4 mile out there, I mean, it's really quite interesting. You ought to go out and watch it if you get the chance, just to see all the vehicles. But you also have all sorts of aircraft up there. You have single-person helicopters. You have single-person just I don't know what they are, kites, huge kite type things flying around up there. And they also land out there on the dry lake bed. So my concern is, are these guys going to get in the way of these guys when they're going down the racetrack? And that is a real challenge. I've actually stopped races because of the drones that they have, where people have taken drones and as part of not the participants, but the spectators, and they put them right in front of the vehicles that are coming down through because they want to get a shot of an oncoming vehicle. Well, that's very scary for me because the guy or girl that's driving one of these things, if that drone doesn't pull up in time when the vehicle gets there, they're going to go right through the windshield. So I've actually stopped races because of my concern for safety, and safety is our number one concern on these events. And SCTA actually does a really good job of running the event and making sure that everything is safe, and they put cones up and they really outline their racetrack really well. So they do an excellent job out there. So it's sort of neat just to go out there and just to see all the activity that takes place around it. It's fun to watch. And I get paid to do this job, so
That's cool.
I mean, I gotta be truthful. I say that to myself all the time. I get paid to do this. This is great. So this is an area of critical environmental concern, and we actually have 45 areas of critical environmental concern. I don't know if you've heard about them in your classes, but areas of critical environmental concern can be named that for a number of different reasons. One, it can be for the natural resources it's protecting. One, it can be for the cultural resource it's protecting. Another one is for the wildlife that it's protecting. So when I was just talking about Juniper Flats is also an ACEC area. So we have to maintain it to protect those and preserve those cultural and natural resources. And the two ACECs that it's named for is one is the cultural resources up there. There's a lot of cultural sites and native sites in that area. And the other is that it's a wildlife corridor up there. We're right up against the U.S. Forest Service up there. So there's a natural wildlife corridor that we're also protecting that for. This one has to be Salt Creek Hills, which is right next to Dumont Dunes. So when you're at Dumont Dunes, besides riding around on your ATVs and UTVs and eating all the sand in the world you want, getting it in your shoes, hair, wherever, you can also walk a nice trail that's about 1.5 miles long around the mountains out there. And what this goes to, and you can't quite see it, but up here, there's a stone building, and that's one of the first gold mines that there was in Southern California. Was spotted up there when some Mormons were going through on a wagon trail. They actually found it, and they have a whole mining operation. So you'll be able to see a whole bunch of mines that are still there. Some of them we've closed off, and we do back caves. Some of them are still open where people can go in and explore if they want to. I'm sort of claustrophobic, so I stay out of mines myself. I let other people go in. So this is one of my interpreter specials, Rose Beardshire. She and I were out there walking because we're putting interpretive panels all on the trail. So you walk along, and then whatever you're looking at will tell a story about what it is you're looking at, where you are, how it was developed. So there's another job that we have, interpretive person, to just interpret what's going on in the world around us. So that's a real neat ACEC. And back behind me, if I were to turn around and take a picture in the other direction, is Death Valley. So we're right across from Death Valley there when you're out at Dumont Dunes too. So Sperry Wash, this is close to Dumont Dunes. And what you're looking at here is a wild and scenic river. So it's got a wild and scenic river designation. It's the only one in Southern California that I know of. So we have to maintain and protect that as a wild and scenic river. It flows out of Tecopa. So this is the Amargosa River that you're seeing here. This is Chantel Marshall. She's one of my outdoor recreation planners. So we're developing a management plan for the Amargosa River right now. This is one of the sites when you drive up Sperry Wash, and it is marked. What we have is a pile of stones that you can tell where the edge of the road is. We also have route markers placed along the way so you can tell where the route actually goes through Sperry Wash. We have the Wild Core crew. I know there was some question about, well, what can you do to volunteer or work? There's all sorts of different organizations that come out and help us with this, and the Wild Core crew is one of them that you can get on if you want to do outdoor work. They're going to be doing a spike out there. What I mean by spike is they come out and they put their tents in, so they drive spikes into the ground so they stay on site. So they're going to be working on that from actually tomorrow through this weekend. We're putting in 1.5 miles of cable and post fence, because once you go up Sperry Wash, you drive by this site, you drive up and around. Well, when you turn around and come back, the way the canyon is, it leads you right into the Wild and Scenic River. So we've had a lot of people that come down and going across and into the Wild and Scenic River. Well, we have a boundary on the Wild and Scenic River that people aren't supposed to go into that area or use that area. So we're putting this fence across Sperry Wash so that we can actually direct people. Sometimes in managing land, you have to use hard. We tried other things like signs and labels and telling people on kiosks where the route is, but we're at the point now where we actually have to put in a hard barrier so that people don't go down through it. Our soft barriers have failed, so at some point in time we have to make a decision, okay, we need something harder so we can actually manage this properly. So we got that in there. But it's a beautiful ride, and if you have a street legal, which you can get up through there with a Jeep and some trucks, it's really rough. You're going up a wash. You end up coming out where you can go to China Ranch, which is another wonderful area that has some trails, and it's also a date farm. This is another shot of Dumont Dunes, and this is the North Pole. And people actually put letters to Santa Claus in here, and our fire crew picks them up. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't hear that, but our fire crew picks them up and delivers them to Santa Claus. But I mean, hundreds of people come out here to the North Pole and drop stuff in there. But it's just beautiful. And what you're looking at here is the Kingston Mountain Range, which is a wilderness area in the background. So you can find all sorts of solitude and walk and anyways, ride, whatever. It's just beautiful out there. So some of the career opportunities, like I said, recreation, biology, budgeting, realty, archaeology, media. I didn't put fire in there, law enforcement. There's just tons of jobs. And really, right there is a site to go to. Go to usajobs.gov, www.usajobs.gov, and just type in whatever it is, recreation, accounting, budgeting, natural resources, whatever, and then see what pops up for you. And finally, you guys might recognize these. They're beaver tail cactus, really beautiful. I put the chicken up there for a reason. Have any of you ever heard Lynn's story about the chicken? Her grandmother's story about the chicken? You never have. Is Lynn online here someplace?
She's teaching the soil science class.
Ah, well, so, yeah, so ask her about her chicken story. I could tell you the story, but it might be more fun if she got the chicken, you got the chicken story from her, and it's her grandmother's chicken story. So I had this actual chicken show up in my yard like 2 weeks ago. I've asked all my neighbors if they lost a chicken. Nobody's lost a chicken, so I don't know where the chicken came from. But I'm feeding it now and watering it, and it'll never leave now because I'm doing that. So I've got the signal that I'm almost done. Maybe I've run overboard, but it's been a pleasure for me to to give you a small presentation on the BLM and some of the stuff we've done. So if you have any questions for the few minutes left, I'd be glad to try to answer them or let you know how I can get information to answer them for you.
Well, thank you very much, Zach.
Thank
Let's start with Granite Hills. Do you guys have some questions? My question, real quick, is for everybody here: is what's the best way for them to find volunteer internship opportunities? Because we know those really lead to jobs. So, is
Right.
there a best way to go about doing that?
Well, they can call our office, but there are several different organizations. ACE, America's Conservation something Experience.
Yeah.
So we hire ACE interns. So you really got to make contact with ACE and get your resume into ACE. And they're also the ones when I'm looking for a park ranger or the monitoring intern like I have at Juniper Flats. She's an ACE intern.
Right.
So what we have is assistance agreement with these organizations so that we can put money in there to hire interns. The other one is SCA, which is Southern California Association, I believe. They're another organization that we get interns through. A third one is AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is always a wonderful organization to get into. I've worked with a lot of AmeriCorps interns over the years. Another one is WildCorps. So really, there are quite a few organizations, and those three right there, WildCorps, ACE, SCA, are the ones that we hire most of our interns through right now. So, and it really does help lead for a job. You can build your resume. A lot of the interns that I've hired have gotten better jobs. They weren't intern jobs and left before their internship was up because of the quality lessons that they're learning and experiences they're getting working for the BLM. So, I mean, that really was a great question. That's important to do that. Also, volunteering for us. You can volunteer in our office. You can come out on volunteer days that we have at Juniper Flats so we get to know you. We also have volunteers, ambassadors for OHV. So if you have a UTV or a quad or a motorcycle and you want to be an ambassador, what our ambassadors do is go out and talk about the BLM, meet people at the different campsites on the different trails, just help them learn where they are, learn a little bit about the environment. So that's another volunteer position that they can do. So, and I've also worked with internships on students that were doing their final program for a bachelor's or a master's degree. So I've helped them with projects that way too.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any questions from Granite Hills before you guys go offline? Quiet today.
I couldn't have answered
Oh,
all your
there's the
questions.
somebody's got their hand up. Go ahead. See if we can hear you.
What kind of training do you need to be a park ranger?
What kind of training to be a park ranger?
Well, it depends on which park ranger you're talking about. We have two different park rangers, and sometimes people get confused. One park ranger is the law enforcement. Law enforcement takes a lot of training, and actually after you get hired and brought on is when the training begins. We send our law enforcement out to be rangers training for about a year. They have a lot of training before we'll let them carry a weapon out there. The other one is the park ranger that goes around and greets people. So an associate's degree or a high school degree where you've been out doing a lot of volunteering with us and working with us, and we see that you get along with the public really well. Part of our thing is you have to be able to socialize and be friendly with people out there. So that's one of the key things to being a park ranger. So college degree if you want it, up to no more than an associate's though, is needed to become a park ranger, entry-level park ranger. And our park rangers, like I say, they do a lot of things. They fix fence, they do minor maintenance, they meet with people. So there's a lot of fun stuff that park rangers do.
And where do they go to?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So all of our park rangers is on,
USA Jobs?
yeah, USA
Okay.
Jobs,
Okay.
Yeah.
right here. That's where you go to find the park ranger positions.
Yeah.
And we have seasonal and we have full-time. So what they're doing right now is in January, they're going to start running all the new jobs for the summer jobs. So really, right now, or in January, start going to USA Jobs, and you can actually put in the career field that you want information on, and USA Jobs will keep sending that to you automatically. You can have it send it right to your home email so that you know that those positions are coming up. So if Park Ranger is something you want to do, you go into USA Jobs, you put it in there, Park Ranger. I forget the exact steps for doing it, but I've done it, and then it sends you all those jobs related to Park Rangers right to your email, so you won't be late. So the best thing I can advise is, I know they say just do a one-page resume, but for a federal job, the more that you write and the more information that you put in there, the better. So don't try to keep it just to one page. When I read about stuff that you've done, whether it's a volunteer activity, I want to know, well, what did you do? I went out and I rode UTVs, do this kind of thing, or I met with this group and led this program, or really explain with a little bit of detail what you've done. Just don't try to do a one-sentence response on your resume.
Will it help to have a letter of recommendation from Mr. Neville?
Absolutely. It's always an excellent thing to get a reference from your supervisor or your instructor. Yes, indeed.
Putting you on the spot, boss.
All right, no problem. So how about the AAE? You guys always have questions. Mr. Huffman? How about it for 10 points extra credit question? How about that? All right, I thought that would wake you guys up. All right, fire away. I'm not kidding. Yes.
For real.
Is that Sagar?
No.
Who's
That would
it?
be Sagar.
It is Sagar?
Except he's gonna give all his points to Austin.
Oh, okay. What a, he's into the equity part of sustainability, yeah.
So your question is, where can I go on BLM, or where is BLM? How do I know? I'm going to step off camera for a minute. Hold on. You want to put that up? Yeah.
We'll put it on we're gonna switch to the dock camera real quick, you guys. Oh my God.
Someone still sees.
You guys see that?
I think it's upside down. You got to flip it. It's upside down.
Huh?
It's upside down.
Upside down, yeah. Okay.
There you go.
North to the north.
So what this map is showing you, and we have all the maps for BLM and public lands out there. You can come into our office and get them, but the dark yellow stuff that you see, that's all public lands. The white stuff is the private lands. So you can tell where you are. And now Avenza is a new program that's coming out that is really sharp, that I've got tablets for all my workers. We're going to tablets to gather information. In the Avenza program, you can put a map on there, you can drop a pinpoint, you can grab a GPS location, you can attach a photograph to it. Oh, it's really a super program. So that's what we're starting to use to monitor and track what's going on out there in the desert. But I just wanted to show you that we have maps like this, that even this lighter colored here, this is just outlining El Mirage, but all of this stuff is also public land, so you can tell whether you're on public lands or not. So I know you guys are all campers,
Yeah, got it.
and you want to go out there and camp. So how long can you camp for? Well, you can stay for 14 days at no cost on all these public lands anytime you want. After 14 days, you can go to another piece of public land, but it's got to be at least 30 miles or 30 minutes away from where you're camped, and set up camp again. We don't want people homesteading, but we do want to allow people to go out and have some funds and enjoy the area. Go ahead.
So you say 30 minutes, is that 30 vehicle minutes or 30 minutes walking,
Well,
biking?
well-
How do you guys take that into perspective?
Well-
Because I could say I take 10 steps and that takes me 30 minutes.
so the best thing is not to try to scam the system or beat the system, but move far enough away so that if I come out, I won't recognize your tents and say, oh yeah, this person was over here 100 yards ago and now they're 100 yards away. So you got to move to a
You
different
guys
location.
monitor that quite often?
Yes, we pick up and move. People abandon stuff out there all the time. So after a place has been there for a while, we're also wondering, is there a body inside of this trailer? Is there a body inside of? I'm serious.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
with you.
so.
With you.
We get law enforcement to go out and check it out. First, we walk around and yell to see if we can arouse whoever's inside of it to get their attention, so they come out and talk to us. If that doesn't work, then we call law enforcement, and law enforcement has more power than I do as just a recreation person. So, good question.
Any more questions from AAE? Your 10 points is duly noted, Sagar. And if you just email me if you want to hand